Coach Montgomery came in and turned things around for the Blues, and I think he's going to get this team another cup.
Hey, this is Brandon Chen. Subscribe to Lock On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk to you about the huge impact that Coach Montgomery had on this team coming back to St. Louis. Cam Fowler's leadership has been absolutely outstanding this season. And I think he said a few things that stood out to me that gets me really excited about the future of this team, because the Blues, they do have something really good forming. And I do believe in the next 2 to 3 seasons, the Blues will hoist another Stanley Cup. I know it seems crazy. I know it seems wild. So with all that being said, let's get into it. Coach Montgomery coming back to the St. Louis Blues was the best thing that this team needed. There is no secret about it that Doug Armstrong, general manager, wanted Coach Montgomery as head coach of the Blues for quite some time now. And obviously, the Bruins made a very dumb decision to fire him. The Bruins have a lot of issues, right? And we talk about that sometimes here on Locked On Blues, because from an outsider looking into Boston, I don't see how firing Coach Montgomery was benefiting the team unless you wanted to tank. And the Bruins, I'll give them credit. They did the tank the right way. They got rid of a lot of their star players, a lot of their good players. But a lot of Bruins fans seem to have this one thing that they keep on going back to, and that is it was a mistake to get rid of Coach Montgomery, but their mistake is our gain, because Coach Montgomery has been lights out for the Blues. I think about everything that's happened with this team since hiring Coach Montgomery, and I could not be more proud of the group. I mean, they have went 35-18-7 under Montgomery, and I think that just goes to show how the team responds to him. Coach Montgomery knew about 15, 16 of the guys on the Blues' roster when coming back, right? Because he's been with them before as an assistant coach here in St. Louis. And having that familiarity, it does play a big role. And I think with him, there was no way that he was going to be on the market for more than a week, because a lot of teams had interest in him. I know that there was a couple of teams in the East that had interest in him, because why wouldn't you? The way that his system is, the way that the guys respond to him is everything that you would want and you need within a head coach. And there is a lot of appeal to playing for the Blues. There is. And I think with him wanting to come here, it just worked out. But it is really interesting to me, the shift between Drew Bannister and Coach Montgomery. Now, under Drew Bannister, do I think the guys didn't try because of him? No way do I think that. You were also dealing with a Robert Thomas injury. There is a lot going on at that time. But I do think that the team responded a lot better under Coach Montgomery because of his systems that he has in play. And the way that he works his defense was different than Bannister. Bannister kind of wanted the defense to drop back a little bit. Coach Montgomery was more for the defense playing up a little bit, playing more offense. And I feel like with a lot of our defensemen, and I'm not going to even mention Fowler at the moment, but just think about Philip Broberg, right? He's a great two-way player because he does exceed expectations when he is able to play more offense. So for me, I feel like that system really did help. It even helped guys like a Justin Folks. Say what you want about him, it still helped him. A Tyler Tucker. I mean, the way that players were able to play better than what they are just goes to show how great of a Coach Montgomery was. And I actually took a look back at an interview that he did prior to his first game as Blues' head coach against the Rangers. And for me personally, the reason why I looked back at that interview was I wanted to see how far off he was from the predictions that he made about this team and what he wanted to change. I think it's really easy to come into an organization, right, and say, oh yeah, everything's fine. But no, he knew what needed to be done. And he even said that the Blues, they did a really good job with their with offensively translating, which just goes to show that when they go to offense, they're able to just immediately turn it on, and they take away space well. I agree. Those were things that the Blues were doing prior to him coming that I did agree with. I think the Blues were able to dominate the ice, and they were maybe able, and I know that a rink is one size, right? But they were able to make it look small. So they did a good job with that, even defensively. Here's the thing. He wanted the Blues to harp on finer details offensively and defensively. And I think that this is a really interesting thing that he said, because it is a lot of attention to detail. And again, obviously, he's not going to say all the things that he's going to change about the team in the first interview before they play the first game. I mean, the first game of him as a head coach. But I took that away as, you know what? There is minor things like rebounding. I think of that offensively that the Blues weren't really doing prior to him. So he was able to see that. And he did say that the Blues have a lot of energy. So for him, he felt like that was something that they needed to just continue to maintain. But obviously, the goal was the playoffs for the Blues. And he said it's going to take us to have good habits and details. There's a lot of positive attitude. And he said that right prior to his first game behind the bench as head coach for the Blues. And I kind of laughed to myself when listening to that back, because he said, it's going to take us to have good habits and details. And the Blues did just that and more. They were the best team since the break, right? They won 12 games in a row, created a franchise record, and they were just able to turn it on. Now, do I think the Blues would have had a better record than 35-18-7 if Coach Montgomery was the head coach for the whole season? Absolutely. Well, obviously there would be more games, but you get what I'm saying. Absolutely. But I think that it takes teams time to adjust the systems. But again, it's all about that fine detail. So when you have a coach that is able to really motivate players, help them play better than what they are on paper. I mean, I look at a guy like Tyler Tucker, right? I know that people have mixed feelings about him, but I feel like with Coach Montgomery's system, he was able to exceed how he played under Drew Bannister because he was able to play up a little bit more. It's interesting. I look back at different games randomly now that it's the off season, and I'm missing Blues hockey. So, like, what else do I do with my life? And I do notice a big difference in that and just how the team responds. And there is a part of me sometimes where I'm like, wow, did Coach Montgomery save the season? Because in my opinion, he did. He saved the season, which brings me to this. I believe under Coach Montgomery, he signed 5 years. Don't forget that this team will hoist a Stanley Cup under him. I do believe that. I think that this team, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, has something special going. But I think it takes a special coach. And something that the Bruins failed to do, honestly, was keep Montgomery, because before they made all of their trades, they had great players. They did. I'm not going to deny that. Now you see a former Bruin and Brad Marchand with the Panthers. He actually threw some shade at Toronto saying you got a maple leaf, but I thought that was funny. The point is that the Bruins really blew up. And that is why to this day, I am going to go with the theory that the Bruins knew that they wanted to tank. And that is why they fired Coach Montgomery. Because it does not make sense to me why you get rid of a coach that actually is able to make your players produce. The Bruins were fine. I did not think that this Bruins team was a bad team. Obviously, the Bruins had their own issues going on. But as I said, this was somebody that Doug Armstrong wanted in Coach Montgomery. And I do believe it's only going to get better. And Coach Montgomery said that he likes working with Armstrong and Steen. And I just feel really positive and really optimistic about the Blues' future. Coming up, I want to talk about Cam Fowler's leadership because he said a few things that just made me smile because this man is the definition of a Blue. I want to talk to you about my friends over at Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you feel fuller longer. I know we all love to snack. I am a huge snacker sometimes as I forget to eat my meals, and pistachios have a lot of protein in them. So I always make sure to grab my little pack of pistachios provided to me by Wonderful Pistachios. So this is what you need to do if you just want to get that simple fat snack. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. You got to visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Cam Fowler, the man that Cam Fowler is. Now, again, we're going to have an episode where we're going to go over his statistics, everything that he has done. But today, it's not that. It is about what he has done in the locker room and what he has done for the team as a whole. Because Cam Fowler, in my opinion, was the breakout Blue of the season. You see, we didn't start the whole season with Fowler. We didn't. But when we got Cam Fowler, everything changed. I can't help but think about that Winter Classic. And I can envision myself getting ready and I'm watching the Blues, Chance the Rapper. And I just thought to myself, wow, we are lucky to have Cam Fowler because this is a guy that I personally see having some of the best years, not only what he had last season here, but ahead with the Blues. You see, I have been breaking down the end of the season pressers from every player. And we do it sporadically here because there's so much to talk about, a lot of changing parts with the game of hockey. But what stood out to me about Cam Fowler, it wasn't necessarily the fact that he talks about himself. He talks about the team. And I know he's older, right? He's not a young player per se, but it's how he embraces St. Louis when most of his career he spent with another organization. And that to me just shows me overall that this is the type of player that you want in the locker room, right? And I just don't understand how anyone can look at Cam Fowler and think, oh, wow, this guy, he's not it. He is it. I mean, he's coming up on the final year of his contract in this upcoming season. Again, in Anaheim, he signed 8 years back in 2018, 2019. Oh my goodness, that just made me feel old. Wow, time goes by fast. Wow. And then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. So he's going to be 34 next season, 33 now. So when he becomes a UFA, he will be 35, just to give you in perspective. Because when I'm telling you some of the things that Fowler said, I want you to have in the back of your head that he is approaching the end of his contract. So he said that he's been really grateful to the organization, top to bottom, for giving him the opportunity. He said that the decision, it was scary at the time, but he is happy with how everything turned out, and I'm excited for the future. That is a quote that he said. I'm excited for the future, and I feel like I'm a part of this group now. The way that they welcomed me to the locker room, I'm really excited about our group in the future. That shows me the future. When he says those words, the future, maybe it's not just for next season. Maybe he sees himself here for a little bit longer. And I think that when you're talking like that, you're not just looking just for next season, because then he would say the words, I'm really excited for what's to come next season, not our future. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. If I am, let me know. That's how I took it. Anyways, Fowler continued on and said that he would like to sign here and be here longer, and that this decision is going to be with Doug, obviously, and the group, but he would love to be around as long as they want him to be. He cannot say enough good things about the team and the city and what it means to be a Blue. And he really emphasized that, by the way, what it means to be a Blue and wear the blue note. It's something that he's really enjoyed, and he really does want to have that conversation with Doug. But again, it's going to be a conversation that Doug's going to have with him and say, hey, listen, maybe we can't pay you I believe it's like 6.6.5 AAV, I want to believe. Yeah. But maybe it's 5.8. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it's a bit of a pay cut. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But what I do know is that for him, the season he had last year, yeah, you're not going to want to get rid of him. Cam went on to continue on about why he thinks he succeeded so much here in St. Louis. And he says that a major part of it is the system with Coach Montgomery, about how he wants the defense to approach the game. And he talked about how he just found himself really comfortable in that system, and that he was able to really be beneficial on the power play and click with those guys. And that is something that just stood out to him. So overall, he believes that just he worked well with Coach Montgomery. And again, this goes back to my main point and why I had this in my show today, because two things can go hand in hand. You bring in Montgomery, you bring in Cam Fowler, and you just see an instant spark between the two in the best way possible. And you're seeing 33-year-old Cam Fowler have some of the best games of his career because of the system that Coach Montgomery has. It's truly astonishing. And then obviously there is that talk, after that Game 7 loss. What do you do? How do you react? And do you use that for motivation? Cam said, I think you have to learn from it and understand what happened and why it happened. And he said, personally, he's going to sit with that for a little while, right? And he said that it's really important that it shouldn't be used as a negative towards next season. Motivation, but not a negative, because they were in a great position. They had a great opportunity and it slipped through the fingers. And sometimes as a group, you need to have those moments, because then you're going to come back together and be more motivated. But he's really excited for training camp and cannot wait for the group to grow. And I think that's a really mature approach. Obviously, I'm not a player. I'm not a hockey player, right? I'm not on the Blues. Shocker. But as a fan, I think that I am still kind of dealing in my own way with that Game 7 loss. I think when I think about the way that the season ended and I'm reflecting on it, because I miss my Blues hockey already, it pains me. I mean, I'm going to be transparent with you. I do this podcast every day. I really struggled being able to accept the fact that the Blues were only a few seconds away from advancing due to the same issue that they've had all season with those last minute goals. And I think for me, I was negative. I wasn't optimistic and I wasn't positive. There was nothing that I had in an opinion that screamed positivity. So for Cam Fowler, a few days later, because don't forget these were a couple of days after that loss, to be able to say, I don't want this to be a negative, I want this to be motivation, speaks volume about his character. I think it's so easy for us sometimes as fans to maybe just be a little bit too emotional, because this is our passion. Like, we don't get paid to watch these games, right? But we do it because we're fans. Like, I can't tell you how many Blues games I have watched growing up where I am stressed out beyond belief. And I'm like, wait, it's because I care. It's because I'm a fan. And I think I think about the 2020 playoffs. Like, there's just so many things that I just think about, right? And for Cam to have that response just shows me the leader that he is. So I am happy that he is here. But I'm going to touch on this. I think the Blues do have something good forming. I do. It's funny. When I was listening to these end of the season pressers, one of the things I wrote down specifically was no Dylan Holloway. What can they do with Holloway? And that's a legit question. They didn't have Dylan Holloway. So what would have been done on the ice if Holloway was playing? Would it have gone to 7 games? I'm just saying, there is a lot to think about when it comes to the future of the team. And a big part of it is Dylan Holloway. And it is something I think about because I think about all the what ifs. Dylan Holloway is a superstar in the making. Okay? I know Edmonton fans, they're going to try to deny that because for them, they don't want to see Holloway or Broberg succeed. I've seen the comments. I'm just saying. I know that the comments don't reflect an entire fan base, but I see the comments. For me, and for all the Blues fans, I can speak for all of the Blues fans, we have been impressed by Dylan Holloway. We have been impressed by Robert Thomas. We continue to be amazed by Jordan Binnington. And Binnington said, again, that he does not want what happened to be a negative. He is proud of the guys. He is. And that to me is a leader. And that to me is a more mature Jordan Binnington. We have a Jordan Kyrou for the 3rd season in a row with 30 plus goals. Sure. Is defense an issue? Yeah, but we have an off season to address that. You see, we have a guy, Jimmy Snuggerud, who, in my opinion, is going to be an all-star. He really is. I mean, just how he was able to compose himself in the playoffs. And I mean, he was the only goal scorer in game 2. So I'm just saying, but like, there's just so many positives. Savorsky, I could go on and on. We have a great leader within Captain Braden Shen, who was excellent, mind you, on the faceoffs. I know a lot of you don't want him in the 2C position, neither do I. But you cannot deny that he is the best when it comes to faceoffs, right? You have a great backup goalie within Joel Hofer. And it's important that we kind of acknowledge the youth on this team as well. I think it's easy for us as fans to dwell. Look at the negative. Oh, the turnovers that Kyrou has. The awful defense by Parayko. Mind you, Parayko was hurt. He came back. Yeah, he didn't play great hockey. I'm not going to deny that. Neither should you. There's no denying that. No excuses, right? As Doug Armstrong said, not Coach Montgomery, Doug Armstrong said, no excuses. But that's still a legit kind of fact, right? The defense will be changed. Do I see Justin Folk and Nicoletti returning? I really don't think so. I really don't. And if they do, that will be a mistake. But even if they do come back, I doubt it will be as bad as last season because the Blues know what they need to change. With all of the problems that they had, they still made it to the playoffs. So I'm just saying it for how it is. They had a lot that they needed to work on, and they still made it to the playoffs. So again, a lot that we're going to talk about this off season. But for me personally, I'm going to keep my eyes on a couple of players on Edmonton that I think might be a good fit for the Blues, maybe even the Panthers. So I would watch those playoffs. I would, because UFAs, baby. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And like always, let's go Blues.